Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the AI Interconnect Podcast. I'm your host, Laurent. This is the podcast where we sit down with founders, operators, and investors who are building real system behind AI, not just talking about it. And AI Interconnect, the goal is simple: bring you grounded conversation with people solving real problem across industry. And today I'm joined by Viggo Stenseth, co-founder and CEO of SolvaPay. And SolvaPay builds payment infrastructure that allow AI agents, APIs, and workflows to transact and monetize in real time. Viggo, thank you for being here. Very happy to have you on the show.
Thank you, Laurent. You framed it perfectly. Well done. I think it's hard to boil it down into a few sentences, but I think you really nailed it down what we're doing here at SolvaPay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited
Thank
to
you.
be here.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. That's all I know. Anything, nothing else. Everything is on you now.
All right. Yeah. So where do we go from here?
Okay, let me start because I mean I want you to to start with your background, obviously, so listeners understand the path that led you here, and you have operated across both large scale platform like Spotify and financial systems, and that combination is not common.
Mm.
Um, Vigo, how did your background across product, finance, and a large-scale platform lead you to build SolvaPay?
So that's a excellent and fun question. I keep getting dragged into the new thing. And for some reason, I keep ending up at the seam between technology and money. Having the fortune of taking part of major technology shifts. I was there when we started building websites back in 97, 98, having to explain why selling things online was a thing. And later, like you mentioned, Spotify, where scale and platforms are like the emerging pattern, where things need to be built to work at scale. Like there's no off-the-shelf solution. So it's been a journey where I'm always intrigued to understand and kind of take apart the thing that I don't understand and put it back together. That has been since birth. I think if you ask my mother, I took apart the phone, I added lights to just understand how it worked. And being fortunate enough to live in kind of this paradigm shift after paradigm shift of technology, and having the flexibility to move in where I don't understand something, but I can see a pattern, I can see something emerging, has been something that I continuously do. And I'm fortunate enough to build SolvaPay together with two fantastic co-founders. We're all technical in our backgrounds. We all have financial background. So me, Viggo, Tommy, and Ingmar, I think we have a couple of decades within the financial industry and technology more specifically. And we're now at this precipice of things changing again. I was very skeptical at first, and a healthy skeptical, because I was playing around with agentic systems very early, and they were fun, but they didn't really work. And I bet since you are hosting this podcast, you have a similar experience. But there was something there, right? Like the trend was set, something was emerging, and you could see, okay, if this continues down this path at the same speed or even faster, this is something that I need to understand and need to really dive into. And what better way than to build inside of it? And here we are building SolvaPay at the very forefront, and we think adding the last piece of what is missing in this new kind of agentic economy that is forming, the transaction.
Wonderful. Okay, I love it already. There's let's deep. There's a lot of noise right now around AI agent automation, but very few people explain clearly how money flows in that world. Um, when you explain SolvaPay to someone outside the fintech and AI, how do you describe what you actually do and who you help?
It's a great question. And it's kind of rude to answer a question with a question. But if we stick around for a bit and say, okay, so we have something called AI agents that can decide, analyze, and investigate and solve things, but they're not transacting just yet. They're not buying things. So if I ask you this question, Laurent, why would you, what is the biggest reason agents or AI isn't transacting today, according to you? Just top of your mind.
Um, too many other things to do.
Probably.
Or maybe the transaction is the last row in the process, and then maybe we still want to have a human in the loop.
Yeah, no, I think that they are all valid cases. Something that I keep hearing, I love asking this question, is often around trust or security.
That's true.
I think we here at SolvaPay are like seeing something that is much simpler even. And the simple thing there is, what if I say that there isn't just that much interesting things to buy yet for an agent? What if I say that an agent doesn't need a new pair of shoes? It needs your data. It needs your very specific PropTech analytical skill or the tool that you can provide. And it wants to use that to accomplish its goal. And if it could do that, it would also like to pay for it. So that's our premises. Like the emergence of real B2B sales here happening at scale, where the agents doesn't really care about your logo or brand value. It cares about your uptime, your quality of service, what unique data set that you have. And this is really exciting. And that's something that we haven't really seen before. We've talked about Internet of Things. We've talked about a lot of these different things. And it seems to us that it's converging now into a point where that actually becomes meaningful.
Yeah, we've been cut to second, but yeah, I mean, this is very interesting, and thank you for asking me because I was, I mean, I didn't answer correctly.
I don't know if
Trust.
anyone has
You're
the
right.
answer.
You're right. Trust and security is. I talk about trust at every single podcast and episodes. It's a main issue. And it's before, and even when you go to markets, before selling anything, um, you have to gain the trust of your buyers. Then it maybe add another step into your go-to market before really selling the final product. But okay, you are not just building a product. You are building in a category that is still forming. Right now, my opinion. Right now,
Yeah.
what feels like the hardest part of building and scaling SolvaPay?
Hmm. Um, Two things come to mind. We are very passionate about builders. We saw now this week, we had one of the first billionaire solo entrepreneurs built a business with all agentic workforce. So empowering builders is something that we're very passionate about. Basically transforming their unique knowledge, their unique insight, and building a business out of it. That is super interesting. And the second thing is we're seeing emergence of what I would call platform builders, where you have a very specialized set of services. A company that does data scraping and has community members building specific tools that they publish under this kind of platform. And they have sort of a revenue sharing model. And it's not something that I was expecting to see, but these types of services are very forward leaning into the agentic economy. They see that, okay, we're going to have these networks of builders, and we can have platforms that share the value that they bring, and also share the money and the revenue generated by these like collection points. So I don't know if that's a clear answer to your question, but it's patterns that we're seeing, and we're kind of surprised about, because we were expecting a slight delay on the ask of autonomous transactions, the need for like truly autonomous. We can talk about that more specifically. What does it mean to have human in the loop, something in between, and then fully autonomous? That's something we could dive into. But we were kind of naively expecting the fully autonomous use case to be a little bit further out. And here we have some early companies coming in, banging on our door, like, hey, we need this yesterday. And that surprised us, to be honest.
Yeah, no, definitely. So many things. You pointed to prop tech as a place where this is already, there is already visible practice into AI agent. Now, if we take a property management workflow, what does an agent actually need to interact with and pay for today?
Interesting. So we're early. I feel, as a founder, I feel like we're always late, but we are still very early. So we are in talks with a property manager, or I would say a facility manager solution. They have very advanced IoT solutions that can detect, alert, and collect data and inform you about the situation at their facilities. Everything from big airports to other large-scale facilities that need to be managed. You know, everything from how much paper is available in storage to the very specific restrooms. So if they can detect, alert, and inform, then there is a natural next step where that procurement happens, where it fills up, right? Like it fills up the stock, it buys the service, it calls the sub contractor to do extra cleaning, whatever is needed. We now have the capability to make very advanced decision making in these new. I think I saw a company that was on your podcast called Elise AI, and they managed something around 5 million units. It only makes sense if you have software and tooling that can support that scale, right? And if we can now go even further in terms of procurement, management, reducing overhead of repetitive things, then that is just the next step in these types of systems. And trust, of course, is going to be vital in those systems. So we don't have someone going off and buying 2 tons of toilet paper where there's only one roll needed, right? But we're at the stage where it's actually quite easy to model and build these systems now. And that is also an emerging pattern. Like the one size software fits all is very quickly dissipating. Everything now can be customized. Everything can be componentized and put together for the very specific use case that your business needs. And that is very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. What are the biggest friction points today into these workflows? Credit check, valuation data, compliance screening, scheduling APIs. All of the above.
I mean, it cuts to the heart of why we started building SolvaPay. Everything that you described is built for the human. Everything from the credit card, inputting numbers, how the actual field is displayed is called PCI compliance, meaning that it has to be very clear for a human. That says nothing about what is clear for an agent. Will we have agents using credit cards, or will they use tokens or credits? These are the things that we're exploring. But what is true is that pretty much all, if not everything, is built around the human in terms of checkout and paying for things with the financial infrastructure in place. So we really need to reconsider and build that from the bottom up to have something that is not retrofitted, but from the start built to work inside of these systems, and have a checkout experience that, works inside of a API call rather than someone logging onto a website entering credit card details. So we need to be very pragmatic, of course. How can we do that in a way that is responsible and move with the speed that the market is moving, but still having a very responsible mindset around this, because it's money being transferred, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when you describe these workflows, everything sounds connecting in theory, but not in reality. And why is connecting and paying for all these services still manual and fragmented today?
So to that, I think it relates to our ambition at SolvaPay. We early said we're going to do the hard thing, and I wouldn't do this without my other co-founders. We know what's kind of required in terms of regulatory responsibility and building the technical solution. So we talked a little bit about building the technological solution from the bottom up, not retrofitting. So that's one piece. Like we can do that. And if we look at systems in place, it's quite trivial to build something where you can transact within your own little bubble. So if we take a big AI client like ChatGPT, for instance, it has its own ecosystem, its own little bubble where you can perhaps transact within this bubble. But as soon as you want to go between different systems, you enter into regulatory space. Like you can't just transact between these bubbles, credit systems, without having a sound financial regulatory system in place as well. The licenses required to move money, e-money licenses, etc. So I think that's those two things combined. Like, how do we actually build something where an agent can hold and transact, and having the regulatory approvals and the framework around that to make it work, not only within its own little ecosystem, but across. And that's what we're here to build, really. So,
Yeah.
you have to be pragmatic. You can do the bubble, and the bubble still makes sense. Like you can have trusted actors. So if you have your property management company, for instance, they have their known suppliers. You can create a new bubble with that ecosystem quite easily, and onboard them within this. So you can have agents transacting within this known network. And that's how we approach it while we build out.
Okay. I love it. But where does the current infrastructure fail when you try to automate and end to end?
I guess it depends on where. I mean, it's such a broad. It's really use case by use case, almost. If you try to do the general thing, we come back to this problem of moving between bubbles, different ecosystems. There, the regulatory framework kind of breaks down. The suppliers that exist today don't have the technology. They might have the regulatory approval, but they don't have the technology to work across. and vice versa. You might have the technology, but not the regulatory approval to move across. So I think it's really like the race to have that solved. That's, to be very concrete, where it breaks down is just that, the traditional checkout experience. I say that an agent doesn't need a new pair of shoes. It needs your data set, right? We're seeing a lot of work being put in. And this is a valid use case where the existing shopping cart, the checkout experience now happens inside of a chat. But that doesn't help the property manager all that much. The property manager needs to be able to have their system have a spend limit and known guardrails to go spend with their suppliers autonomously. And that's a very different type of transaction. And that's where the traditional kind of payment providers don't work. They might have the regulatory approval, but their whole transaction process is built around the human kind of coming in and buying that set of paper that is needed. So, yeah, does that make it a little bit clearer?
Yeah, definitely. If I go a little bit more, what part of the system is the weakest link today?
What part of the system is the weakest link today? In reference to like the whole payment ecosystem, or SolvaPay, or where we see that we need to put in our like, where is our focus right now, or more specifically, what?
Yeah, what you're focusing on. Yeah, exactly.
Something that we're very passionate about is solving two things. It's the embedded billing. It's making the transaction available and the checkout right where you are. So if it's a human in the loop and you're chatting in an AI client, the transaction needs to happen in that context, as close as possible in that context, whether it's buying a pair of shoes or getting access to a data set or an article or analytics tool. It needs to happen inside of that context. And then moving as fast as possible to work across as many of these bubbles, these islands of marketplaces as possible. And the way we do that today is we use different types of protocols that are emerging. Primarily, we use something called Model Context Protocol, and not to be too acronym, it's called MCP. We love acronyms, right? And we throw them out all the time. Why is that interesting? Well, it's one of the few protocols that is being adopted across the system. So whether you're building your own agentic system, like using something like OpenClaw, or if you're using ChatGPT or Claude, they're all kind of supporting and adding more support for the MCP protocol, which means that if you're a business owner, you should treat your business as an API. And the new kind of connector between systems is right now MCP, because that now gives you this USB plug into all these bubbles. And what we do there is we add payment and security through OAuth to those servers. So you can have your business, expose it in all of these bubbles, and also get paid in all of these bubbles, while inside of a regulatory kind of sound framework. So we're not doing anything funky.
Okay. This is great.
Yeah.
I mean, learn every day. And but the MCP, I knew that.
Yeah, and I mean that is also evolving every week. Like it's also a fatigue. I think if you're in the industry, it's almost impossible to keep up. But it's also important to see where trends are kind of conforming, and it feels like we're rebuilding the internet in 2000. To be honest, we laugh at this here, since we were building back then as well. We're like redoing the same mistakes in a way. but also we can move much faster than we did back then. So, trust the process in a way.
Yeah. I mean, well, as you say, there's so many things in front of us. The Web3, the quantum,
Yeah.
we've mixed all.
Where do we go from here? Next week is going to be fun. Like we joke about this. Have you seen the latest news? What do you mean? Like the last hour or last day?
Yeah, exactly.
Last week? It's ridiculous to some degree. I want to hammer down though, like it's a wake up call and a call to action to business owners, because this is now really the era where your uniqueness, whatever you are specialized in, becomes a true commodity, something that is valuable to these agentic systems. And to monetize or to actually capitalize on that value, you need to be discoverable. You need to exist inside of these, I keep coming back to these bubbles, these ecosystems. So if your service is not consumable inside of ChatGPT, because that's where people, like 800 plus million users, are getting their information and solving a lot of their problems, or inside of Claude, if you don't exist there, you're just not available for business. And if you're an early mover, you actually have an extreme advantage, because you get really bonus points from the agents that find you and can use your service. So like being early now has a very big value. You can be small and early, and still have a lot of gains from that. So my call to action is make your business available inside of these systems, and love to show you how to do that. And the next step is, of course, make this your new sales funnel. This is where you can actually upsell, transact. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. You, I love it. You're building the payment layer for the shift. So your view on what comes next is critical. Looking ahead, 12 to 18 months, what does success realistically looks like for SolvaPay and this space?
It's really scary looking more than 2-3 months out. So 12,
Yeah.
12, 18 months is, if I look back 12, 18 months, it was a different world.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
like looking ahead 12 to 18 months, I have this view in my mind. I call it almost like the splitting of the atom moment, where we have traditionally like linear transactions happening. You buy something and it's shipped back. Something very, very interesting is about to happen, where an agent buys something and it needs other things from relevant services to accomplish it. So it fans out. One transaction becomes a multitude of small transactions, getting a piece of data here, running a small analytics job here, connecting and verifying something with an external service here, that in turns fans out into 5 other things that it needs to verify or get a piece of data. So all of a sudden you have this one transaction resulting in 1,000 microtransactions that all roll up into one goal being achieved. I don't think we've seen that before in human history, like transactions behaving that way. So what does success look like? It looks like we are in that. We're enabling that kind of fission moment of transactions. We're at the heart of that splitting of the transaction. I sound like a mad scientist almost, but
No.
but it's like if we then take that analogy, like that's an enormous release of energy, right? And what does that mean for society? It means we will now perhaps have people living off very niche things, which I am very excited about, and enabling a new type of business owner, a new type of entrepreneur at scale. And that for me is success.
Yeah, good enough. Love it.
If I may, like,
Yeah.
where I grew up, there's a street here in Stockholm called Rörstrandsgatan. It's very quaint, a lot of families, and you would have like the store on the corner sold socks, and next to it was a store that sold hats. And then there was a photo kind of studio, and there was just like everything was very, very specialized. If you walk down the same street today, I think there's like 8 sushi shops and 4 baristas. And I believe that we might be a turning point where like that was the trend for 10, 20 years, where we all conformed into this big one solution fits all, to now being able to go back and say, hey, actually, it's the niche thing that can exist again. It's the very specialized thing that can exist. And actually, you can have a business and a livelihood of that. I'm very passionate about that. Now, I believe that that is something that can actually happen in this new shift.
Yeah, very interesting. Let's go back to niche.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. Okay, then in the same. Okay, then what will you accelerate if constraints disappear? If you more money, more time
Mm.
within your business, of course.
It's really that enabling of true free movement between these ecosystems. It's first when that happens, we're going to see an avalanche of things happening. So what is now locked into small ecosystems, when services and money can flow, truly flow between them, then that is the shift. And what do we need? We have our own map of what we need to achieve to start enabling that. Some takes time, getting approvals, working with the right partners. So we have to be very pragmatic. We have to solve things that we can do today. We can bring value today. So we can't just dream about that, the kind of near future thing that we want to achieve. We're building towards that. But it has to work today. That's a foundational principle at SolvaPay.
Definitely. Yeah, awesome. A lot of listeners are operators building an AI API infrastructure today. Based on what you have learned so far, should builders start or stop doing, or what builder should start or stop doing if they want to monetize AI products effectively?
That's a great. What should they stop and start doing? An interesting thing that I see that is a wake up call for great entrepreneurs. I mentioned a prop tech company that has like 5 million units. They can build systems and make their own operations more lean and have transactions happening. But it's also the advent of turning that into its own business, like the data sets, the insights from that business is something that is valuable and can be also commoditized and opened up, and that is a mind shift that needs to happen. I don't know if I can explain it, but it's like you can build your own thing, but actually you can also look at your own thing that you're building and expose that, because it has value to others, and you can monetize that. And that is a big shift in mindset that I think builders and entrepreneurs now have to look at. Okay, I can build this great thing, but I can actually just expose output from that, and that also has value. And that's a very different side of their business that they haven't really reflected on before. So the output of data that is coming from a system is valuable to someone else. There's some saying, one person's trash is another man's gold. So there is something in that, a mind shift that needs to happen. Like, what does agents need here? From what could possibly be something that is output from my service that could be of use. So that's one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. What will you tell your earlier self starting SolvaPay?
What will I tell? So if I could go back 6 months and give myself some advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, that is such a good question. Enjoy even more the ride, and celebrate a little bit more. I think we've done some amazing things in a very, very short time span. We have some great, investors. We have the fortunate to work with passionate builders that want to, try early, understand the value of it, but also stopping and celebrating and enjoying while building is something that I would tell myself to do a little bit more, because it's really important, and I think it's something that a lot of other builders might benefit from as well. There's tough times. There's enough tough times being an entrepreneur. So actually stopping and celebrating the small wins and the big wins is really important.
Definitely, I agree. 100%. It makes the whole team more worth it and more. I mean, appreciating the effort and I mean, definitely celebrating. I mean, you learn from failure, but I mean, when there's success, don't hesitate to push it and celebrate. I love it. I love it. Viggo, thank you so much for joining. Strong insight into your journey, your industry, and the work you're doing at SolvaPay. Um, we could go on 3 or 4 more
Yeah,
hours like this.
I would love to.
Obviously, yeah, me too. We'll do another one. We're not gonna wait a year.
Yeah,
We'll do another show and keep the conversation going. I really love it and want to learn
thanks,
more. Thank you so much for
Laurent.
taking the time.
It's been a pleasure. I want to leave with a note to your builders, because I know that you have a lot of great builders on your podcast. Lean into this and make yourself available inside of these new agentic marketplaces. The new agent economy is already here, and if you're curious, maybe the next episode is a very real world use case with one of your clients or someone that has been on your podcast, where we can dive into how this actually is working in a real use case. That would be fun to showcase.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
All
Love
right.
it.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed
You,
it, and fantastic questions.
you're much welcome. Where can people find you or read about your work?
Super easy. SolvaPay.com. So SolvaPay.com. Really easy. If they want to reach out to me, please, you can ping me also at viggo@solvapay.com, and you can find us on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
Laurent.
joining. Thank you. And that's it for today's episode of AI Interconnect. If you enjoy it, share it with someone who's building the future, or better yet, someone who should be. And until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep building. Thank you. Bye bye.